Hey there, Patty Dominguez. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Positioning to Profit podcast. This is episode number 81, and I have a very special guest, Val Hemminger, who's a friend of mine and a dear client, and we are talking all about finding your message. She is going to talk about her trials and tribulations in figuring out this whole entrepreneurial thing, and in the process, we have some laughs, but one of the things that I will say about her is that she is tenacious. Like you would not believe. So I commend her for that. She is a spectacular person. I absolutely adore her. And so this episode is really special, just talking about the journey and then finding your flow and the whole process in between. So a really, really good episode. Okay. And then you definitely want to check out, I have a special workshop happening right now. It is a free masterclass for coaches, 5 strategies to bulletproof your business in 2021. You can head on over to positioningtoprofit.com/2021 for the free workshop where you are going to discover the 5 strategies to bulletproof your business. So it's all about how to find your white space where others are just in a crowded, bloody ocean of competition. The missing component to your offers, especially if you're not selling, the single most lucrative business strategy that virtually no one takes advantage of to grow their income, and what the big brands do, because trust me, I have experience with that, to grow their reach that solopreneurs are completely missing out on. So again, head on over to positioningtoprofit.com/2021. And with that, on to the show. Here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of 1 status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Val Hemminger, welcome to the Positioning to Profit podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Patty. I love it that I'm here. Thanks for having me.
I know. And we rescheduled and we were just talking about tenacity right before we hit the record button and how essential it is, especially if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or all of the above, and just really recognizing that you got to be tenacious in this game. And you're such a great example of that, Val. I give you so much credit because you're just the kind of woman who, no matter what, you're very committed to figuring it out. And I give you a lot of credit because you will not be denied. I know, I see that in you, and you just have that ability to stick with it, right? To have that stick-to-itiveness. So I want to introduce you to our amazing audience. Val Hemminger, give us your 3-minute story, a little bit about your background and what you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Patty. So I'm a divorce lawyer, and I've been a divorce lawyer for almost 25 years. And things were kind of bumping along quite well up till about 2010. And what I did was I bought a space because I read in a book, hey, if you're gonna have a business, you should have a space for it. So off I go and I buy this space. Of course, I didn't have the money to buy the space, and so I fully leveraged it, borrowing money against my home and all of that. And so that was the part I didn't figure out, that you actually should have the money first to buy the space. And so what that resulted in was years of being insolvent and very financially stressed, waking up 6 days a week because the bank was closed on Sunday, with my heart pounding through my chest with fear as I checked my bank account balance, and it was mostly overdrawn, bouncing checks left and right. Ooh. It was awful. And so because of that tale of woe, which I'm still living with the implications now, I ultimately sold that office. I took $1 million loss of real money, so plus the years I lost, and put all that debt on my family home, and then opened up a practice that was in a different space, which was much less money, but also learned a ton about how to run a practice and run a business along the way.
And I think that, okay, so how long were you in that struggle where you were just like heart pounding, that whole deal? How long was that?
About 7 years straight. I worked I worked 50 and a half weeks a year. The only time I ever took off was from my daughter's birthday, December 21st, which is the winter solstice, very special for our family, until the new year. Other than that, if it was a work day, I was working. And my butt would hit my seat at 8 a.m. or so, and I'd power through till 6. And I was exhausted, and I didn't have any bandwidth, wheelhouse to do anything else. It was not a great way to live.
Well, and then I know that it was just this intensity, right, of operating in that way in which you're like burning the candle at both ends and really recognizing how much longer and being in that space of like freak out and exhaustion. I mean, all of the things that are so negative that how can we, like knowing what we know now, how do you get out of that, right? How do you get out of that space and recognize? So the fact that you did it for that long, my God, it's funny because when you talked about the heart pounding and that whole vision, that's how I felt in a different context in my corporate job. And it wasn't, and I've talked about it before, it wasn't until I had my episode of hysterical blindness where like that kind of like a panic attack moment where it was so intense that I literally went blind. It's like I blacked out kind of thing. It was really weird. Wow. And when I got out of that, because there was such immense pressure on me, and of course, it's, as we know, it's like, well, pressure is because we allow that, right? It's our perception of the pressure. But that was really the pivotal moment where I was like, okay, I have got to change this. This isn't working for me anymore. And I'm not willing to live like this. So back to you, what was your kind of turning point, pivot moment?
Well, actually, an event happened where my law society, my local bar, who gives me my license to practice law. Okay. So what happened was, what I didn't realize was I could just walk away. Every day, every year, I put more and more into it, more resources. I borrowed more money all the time to try to make it work. It didn't occur to me that I could cut it and walk, right? I thought I was in it and I felt I had no choice. And then what happened is that my law society, the bar association, who gives me my license to practice law, came and did an investigation because, of course, they saw that because they come and do an audit all the time, they saw that I was struggling. And then also one of the lawyers that worked for me essentially told them that I was struggling like I was. And so they came in and did an investigation. And in that moment, I realized that I just couldn't continue. And so that occurred in 2015.
Okay. And so now how do we fast forward to the point where you recognize, because you built back, right? You got out of it, you built a practice, and now with everything that's happening, especially with COVID and things happening where things are shifting, you've really developed a curriculum. Yeah, I really see you as a mentor to other lawyers. But first, like, what's the pain point? Because as you know, when you're an entrepreneur, we solve problems. Okay. Yes. And while you're still in practice, you found that there was a big problem in your specific space of lawyers. What is that?
Yes, totally. So the big problem, the hugest problem is that a lot of lawyers are financially struggling and they're broke and they're stressed and they're exhausted. And the thing is that they actually also feel huge shame about that because wait a second, you're a lawyer, aren't you? Shouldn't you be loaded? Because we all believe that about lawyers, or a lot of us did. I certainly did. And the thing is that 30 years ago or 25 years ago, when someone was practicing law, they could just hang out their shingle and say, hey, I'm a lawyer, and people would literally beat a path to their door. That does not happen anymore. The market has totally changed. And so the way lawyers were taught to run a practice, they're really not taught to run a business at all. They have no idea how to do that. Yeah. And so it's that I really learned. And of course, the shame and stress that goes with that on top of all of the client files, particularly when you do family law divorces. Right.
And so tell me, what do you think accounted for that shift in the way that businesses are run that no longer applies?
Yes, I think there's a number of things. First of all, I think that the internet happened. And so before one time, when I first started practicing, I was articling in 95. I got called to the bar in 96. And we didn't have computers on our desk. That wasn't what we had. I had a dictaphone where I dictate letters.
Oh, wow.
Eventually I got this dial-up internet thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it would never occur to us to do legal research online or find a blog or anything like that. So people they would come to us assuming, oh, we knew all the information. Well, now people come to us and they say, look, I searched law in our jurisdiction and I know about this, and this. And so why am I even hiring you? How can you help me? So your typical client is a lot more sophisticated. They have a lot more information and of course, a lot more misinformation as well.
Okay. And so how has your career evolved over time? So we have the internet and then you got into a new practice. You got out of that horror story. And I know you worked through that because we met each other through a group coaching program. And so what is it that you kind of, when you had that epiphany of where you saw the opportunity to develop what it is that you offer now?
So what happened is that, okay, so I got coached first privately, and then I also read a ton of business books, a ton of marketing. I read a lot about marketing. I read a lot about business systems. I was in a group coaching program that I met you through. So like a lot of that. And then what would happen? So then I really changed how my practice was run. So it wasn't all about running from this fire to this fire to this fire. We incorporated systems. We have checklists for everything, for onboarding a client, for doing a trial, for doing a mediation. And what ended up happening is that things started to really run a lot more smoothly. Of course, when your lawyer is calm and not losing their mind, of course, that inspires confidence in clients more. And so then I got a lot more referrals, and it just kind of was this well-oiled machine. And then when it really landed for me is that when other lawyers would come to my office, they would be kind of looking around like, holy cow, are you ever organized, right? Because I don't come across as looking naturally organized, and yet I am very organized. And so that's what people were seeing. And then of course, I was mentoring younger lawyers, some lawyers that worked for me. And of course, that's when it really landed for me that I've got a lot of knowledge and also systems and strategies that I can share with other lawyers. And then of course, for us, the fact is that sometimes if a lawyer is really imbalanced or does the wrong thing, it can actually impact families and children for generations based upon how the divorce goes. And so I feel very strongly about that in terms of being able to help other lawyers approach their client files in a way that really helps families because they're going through a transition. It sucks anyway. Yeah. So we don't need to make it worse for them.
So you developed this program. So tell us about the program. Like, what's it called and how does it help?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Patty. It's called Be the Best Divorce Lawyer. And the idea is that you be the best that you can be, not the best, but the best you can be. And basically what it does is I've looked at it from a number of angles or ways that you can be the best, or the way that I became the best. And of course, what I think lawyers in my firm are the best is that we talk about strategies for ensuring that you have happy clients every single time. Because of course, happy clients brag about their lawyers, and there's nothing better than a previously happy client coming to your firm because they're ready to hire you when they walk in the door. Also about treating your law practice like a business, knowing your numbers, knowing your metrics. And then, of course, the big one was, of course, marketing and attracting really great qualified clients to your firm, ensuring that you stand out in your marketplace so you're not exactly like everybody else. So that's where we were. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And then we also, so that's another part that is part of my program is working virtually, because so many times, because it is a skill and there's certain things, for example, confidentiality, super important that we continue to honor that for our clients. And I would be on these calls with people. We'd be working virtually, and I'd literally see somebody in their basement with a bunch of ski equipment and stuff in behind them. Dude, you can just use a virtual background. Come on, So that's what it's about.
Well, and I think it's so good that you like literally come from a place of knowing. You figured it out. You've figured so much of this out. And I know on the marketing side, if I may be so bold as to talk about like some of the mishaps, right? Like oh God, we've all been there, right? The mishaps. I remember we were working together and you had said something like, I don't think my ads are working, Patty, right? And so like, you're so amenable to being like, why is that? Why isn't it working? All right, we are about halfway through with this episode of the Positioning to Profit podcast, and I wanted to stop by with a share that I'm really excited about. Now, the fact that you're here means that you're probably looking for help with your marketing. I mean, let's face it, most of the marketing tips and the buzzwords that you hear out in the marketplace center around tactics that small business owners can employ. The problem with that is that there's a whole lot of tactics out there, but not a whole lot of strategy, and that's where I come in. I help coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs position themselves for profit. It won't cost you millions of dollars like the big brands, but it will cost you some time. And in this special book that I put together, you can find it over at positioningguide.com, I go into the essentials of positioning to profit, which is a guide that I put together for coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs struggling to stand out. So head on over to positioningguide.com and grab a copy for yourself. All right, let's get back to the show. And so here's the thing. As a lawyer and other lawyers that are out there, there's so like your superpower is to be a lawyer, but it's not to be a marketer. And so there's so many different things that you come across that people say, oh, this is what you really need, or this is what you really should be doing. And so you were running ads. You were running I don't know how much you were spending on ads. But Val, I looked at it, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Because first of all, the message to market match, can we talk about that?
Oh, sure.
Yes. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I talked to someone who talked to someone and said, oh, you need a Facebook ad person? Here's your person. Yeah. And money's just, oh my gosh, I can't remember how much I spent, but it was a lot considering, and thousands. And what happened is when you looked at my ad, because I said, Patty, can you help me with this? Because this isn't. I'm spending a lot of money and I'm not getting any leads. Yeah. And then you looked, and what it was. My message was. My whole message is about, hey, is being a lawyer, a divorce lawyer, harder than you expected? Is it more challenging? Is it less rewarding? Are you on your way to your own divorce because you don't spend time with your own family, like that kind of stuff? And meanwhile, this ad campaign was all these pictures of like a puppy in a cup. And
it was like a cat picture or something. There was another one with a cat picture.
Very cute, a baby seal, and it said, like being a lawyer, then like my picture. And then of course people would like it, but if they're happy being lawyers, they're not the people I'm about to help anyway. Plus I don't know that many of happy lawyers anyway, but yeah.
Right. So this is such a great example of content and context. Like, okay, so you're putting out different content in good faith that you're going to be attracting the right person, but the context is completely off because I remember the little pictures of the puppy in a teacup or whatever. I was like, Val, what does this have to do with anything? I was dying. I was like, Val, these need to just be shut down. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not a Facebook ads traffic person. That's not what I do, but common sense will tell you, you have to have the message to market match. That's the lesson. And so I say this to you because Val has gone through the pain points and the pitfalls and the landmines of bad marketing. And I think one of the discussions that we had is that this, your academy is such a perfect combination of real world, think on your feet, like here it is, let me save you from stepping on the landmines and getting to the core of where the value is, which is in a virtual because of everything going on, setting up a virtual office, the tricks and tips and hacks and things that they don't know, right? Yeah. And how to show up. And then the marketing stuff, like we talked about, and so many of these elements and structure and SOPs and systems. It's like, to me, this is exactly addressing the pain points. And so now what are you focusing on in terms of the marketing that you're doing as we go into a new year? Like, what are you thinking, Val?
Yeah, well, one of the things and I followed your advice, Patty, because I had my potential market's hanging out on LinkedIn. So I was actually more on Facebook before. Mm-hmm. And so I've really changed that strategy to spend more of my time on LinkedIn. I have a virtual assistant that helps reach out to make connections and stuff. But when people do engage with me, I engage back with them because that's my voice, my authenticity. And then I've just been in a place of service. And that's really, really been helping. And what I've found, compared to the big bucks I spent on those Facebook people a long time ago, it's the LinkedIn connections that are really engaging with my content and really hungry for it. Because another thing about divorce lawyers, or lawyers generally, a lot of us are afraid to be wrong because we are so used to getting A's in school, getting like, just tell me what I need to know to get the A, to be right all the time. So if we actually don't know what we're doing, for a lot of lawyers, we feel wrong or that we're bad because we don't know, that we should know the answer. Even if we don't know what we don't know, but that's a very common problem in the industry. So what I'm finding is that on LinkedIn, as I'm reaching out, telling my tale of woe, people are other lawyers are very much resonating with that and engaging with that content. So it's organic at this point, but it's very powerful.
Well, because you're opening the door for them to see your vulnerability, for them to see, hey, I've been there. And then people are nodding their heads. And as, I don't know who said it, I think it was Zig Ziglar. It's like people are just dying to be led. Right? Yeah. People are dying to be led. And so if you are bold enough to take the first step and be like, hey, listen, I fell on my face, flat on my face, and this is what I've gone through, and let me help you navigate the landmines because I know where they are. And so there's something really powerful there. And we're talking about for next year for you is creating some kind of continuity to leverage your time to create a community. Because as you know, I talk a lot about the power of tribe marketing and just how powerful it can be. And I think that this is a great opportunity for you to focus on that, to really serve like lots of lawyers, leveraging your time with all these beautiful, the profound expertise that you have, Val. And the other thing is the people that right? Like, the right people, the people to go to and to help these lawyers that are really suffering in silence, it sounds like, because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to put their cards on the table and show the vulnerabilities and feeling the shame and this and that. And so you can be that beacon of light to them. I think the work that you're doing is so important. And I love that you're on LinkedIn and are being really on purpose with what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. And you actually gave me that suggestion because I was very resistant to LinkedIn at first because it wasn't very pretty. Platform. I was like, oh, I don't like this, but now I'm used to it and I'm quite enjoying engaging with it for sure. Good. And super happy to be launching into wanting to do a membership site where people can come and instead of having to pay that big amount once and have that be such a barrier of entry, because again, contrary to what people believe, lawyers don't have that extra $2,000 or $3,000 necessarily available to take something, but they could certainly afford $179 a month to transform their lives over the next year.
Oh my gosh, this is like for the cost of a latte, right? A daily cost of a latte. It's like you can completely have the mentorship and expertise. And that's really what this is about. So I think it's a really great idea for you. And because there's nobody doing it already, you can be first to market. So I think you have a really, really big opportunity there. Yeah, so that's amazing. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait. Okay. So let's transition a little bit. And I want to hear, what do you wish you had known when you started out this whole adventure of entrepreneurship?
A couple of things. One of the things I wish I had known was, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I think, well, it relates to getting coached right out of the gate. So it's one thing to be part of a coaching community or a membership, to sign up and say, oh yeah, I'll do that, tick the box, and then your credit card just gets billed. And another thing to really engage with the program. And so for me, where I really launched a lot was once I got the one-on-one coaching. That was very, very powerful, but also because there was just, And also in group coaching that I've done is when I actually get on the calls and are part of that call where I'm part of that group discussion. It's one thing, because one of the things I was doing was I would always listen to the content and I would go through all the modules. I'm a good student. I do all my homework.
Yeah.
But I wasn't always on the live calls. And what I found when I supplemented, so when I dove into the live calls, it would really help my direction. And then when I got the private coaching, there were just these little tweaks that would happen that are so obvious.
That's so funny.
But just not, as an example, the big one I remember, revenue generating activity. Okay. So I think, okay, I'm going to go revenue. I'm going to start a podcast. So I start a podcast and I'm wondering where the money is. Well, that's not revenue generating, but I had the wrong definition and I just made an assumption. I work with you and you say, what's your revenue generating activity? And I say my podcast. And it's like, okay, that's a great for, getting yourself out there, but it doesn't necessarily make you money.
Right.
Mine wasn't anyway. So that's, So just that kind of thing, just having that, because what you don't know is you don't know you're making, for me, I didn't know I was making assumptions that were incorrect. So
there's something so powerful about coaching. And I equate it to, I love this thing. I think it was Brian Tracy who said, he's like, it's really, it's so complimenting when somebody comes up to you and says, you changed my life. And he says, but what I really did, it's like imagining that you're looking one way and I'm just grabbing your head and pushing you to the side and be like, no, look this way. And that's all I'm really doing is like, you're kind of maneuvering, right? It's like you're setting the compass over a little bit and say, no, go this way. And that's the power of a coach that can really help you time collapse and navigate ambiguity, because there's so many moving parts, and so just having a course is not enough because that's only giving you one context. But then having, to your point, and I couldn't agree with you more, having that group coaching element, participating, being a part of that, hearing somebody else's story and be like, oh my God, that's a good idea, and really diving in. And when you have that, the continuity of it, it's really powerful. So much like every divorce lawyer should join your community when you launch, they should also, when they're ready, tap to you to guide them, right? Because I can't even begin to emphasize the amount of time that you will save as opposed to going through the pain point of figuring it out. There's something there to be said for investing in yourself to shortcut that whole process. I think it's so smart.
And there's one other thing I wanted to add about the coaching element, Patty, because I did hire a coach before. And one of the things, like a lot of people aren't necessarily in action or they don't have the discipline or whatever. I have that in spades. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. I'm not going to hold myself back. I don't mind looking dumb, all that kind of stuff. However, what I didn't realize, I hired a coach that I liked, but that did not have the skill set or the skills that would allow me to start revenue generating. So when I started working with, so what I'm saying is when you hire a coach, you want someone who actually knows who's done it or is doing it themselves.
No, very, very good point, and very fair and very true. It is, because concepts are one thing, but the application of it and understanding, right? The outputs and how to pivot and how to tweak and that whole thing, it's just a moving. Yeah. It's like absolutely the case. Okay. Person, place, or a thing. What is something that inspires you greatly?
Oh, walking in the forest, in the woods.
Oh, I love that.
It is. I do it most days. There's one particular trail I'm hooked on right now. It's called Charlie's Trail. 45 minutes. It kind of starts up high, goes down to the ocean, and comes back up again. And what I find, it's so good. And when I'm in there, some people get their ideas in the shower. This is where I get the ideas. They just come. And what I found was a few months ago, I'd really slowed up on that walk or doing the forest walks. And what I noticed was my life wasn't working as well. And yet whenever I take the time to take that forest walk, it's not only good for me and I really enjoy it, but my life seems to work better.
So amazing, isn't it?
Fall into alignment more. Yeah. So that's
it's the opportunity to recharge. And you're right. When I do my walks, and it's more for me, spring, summer, fall. The winter here in Chicago sucks. So now I'm like, I got to find that outlet. And it sounds like this for you is an outlet, not only for your own time to get centered, grounded, great ideas come. Oh my God, so many great ideas come. I couldn't agree more. Okay, I'm big on declarations and I want to do more of that. So for a declaration, what's the vision you have for how you hope to impact your audience for next year? Like, talk to me about the vision. Like, what do you want to create?
Thank you. I want to create a really great opportunity for other divorce lawyers so that they can have that practice that really serves families in a powerful way, so that when families are going through a very challenging time, because if they weren't going through a challenging time, they wouldn't be getting divorced, right? When people are going through that time, that other divorce lawyers can be their sign of hope. The person's going to help guide them through so that children will be happier, families will be happier. So that's what I
love that. I love that. Val Hemminger and Val's Be the Best Divorce Lawyer Academy and forthcoming membership. The best place to get a hold of you is at valhemminger.com, ValHemminger.com. And then we're also going to have it in the show notes and all the social handles on how to get a hold of you. Val, thank you so much for being on the show. I so appreciate you and how dedicated you are and the movement that you're creating.
Thank you, Patty. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.